What's going on, Headliner Nation? Chris Kennedy here, and nope, you don't have to adjust your screens. It is just me on this video. I know it's a little bit different not seeing Jake or Kyle, and while I don't have a funny intro like they normally do, and I also don't have any free draft guides to give away this time, what I do have to offer is a chance to see some green screens. That's right, I'm talking about DFS, you guys. Over at thefantasyheadliners.com, if you click on Patreon, we are offering for $20 a month our MVP tier of Patreon. That's where you can get all of my exclusive DFS content for the NFL, golf, and the NBA. So make sure you're heading over to thefantasyheadliners.com, clicking on Patreon, and sign up for the MVP package. Not only do you get all of my DFS content, you get exclusive access to everything in the bottom tiers as well, which include weekly podcasts, premier articles, and also access to a private Slack channel where you're able to ask us any and every question that you can possibly think of, and we'll answer every single one of them for you. So what I wanted to do today was really kind of dive into a little bit of what I'm looking for in DFS this week and give you guys a few of my favorite plays, so that way you can hopefully dive into DFS for the first time, maybe dip your toes into the water and see what you think. All right, let's kick things off at the quarterback position. And this week, I'm looking at none other than Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints. He's coming in right now at a price of about $6,800 on DraftKings. And for a quarterback, that's a really, really good price. One of the reasons why I'm really excited about this play is while I understand the Buccaneers defense is a little bit more underrated than some think, and they did start to come on against the pass towards the end of last year, they did still allow about 288 passing yards per game and just right around 17 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. This game does have a really high over-under, so I'm expecting this to be quite the shootout between Tom Brady and Drew Brees. I'm expecting Brees to have to throw the ball probably at least 40 times during this game, which makes him a great candidate for DFS. He also is one of the most accurate passers in the league with a completion percentage of 74% last year. So look for Brees to be able to get you some points while also being able to save you a little bit of money at that position. Next, let's head on over to running backs, one of the most popular positions in DFS. And Jake and Kyle will be very, very pleased to hear about this player that I'm about to mention because they have been talking him up all offseason and for good reason. And this guy is going to be Josh Jacobs. I love Josh Jacobs' matchup this week because going up against a porous Carolina defense that last year allowed 126 rushing yards per game and a league-high 33.5 fantasy points per game to running backs. The one thing that I'm excited about with Josh Jacobs is that they signed pass-catching backs. They drafted Lynn Bowden Jr. and converted him from wide receiver to running back, yet they got rid of all of them. The only one that actually stuck around was Jalen Richard. So I think Jacobs is in a big role for, potentially a bell cow role. And where last year he did see about 20% of the time a stacked box, I don't think he's going to have to worry about that this year, where he actually has capable wide receivers around him in Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs. So again, at $6,800 on DraftKings, I'm firing up Josh Jacobs. Heading over to wide receiver, I know I talked about Drew Brees earlier, and the one thing with DFS is one of the highest correlations in DFS is taking the starting quarterback and pairing him with either his wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. Now, Michael Thomas is a bit pricey this week, so I'm going to be looking to spend down a little bit so that I can spend up elsewhere. And so I'll be looking at Emmanuel Sanders this week as Brees' number 2 at only $5,700 on DraftKings. Now, Sanders should be matched up against Carlton Davis, who allowed about 7 receiving touchdowns last year. And as a team, the Buccaneers have allowed 41 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers in 2019. So if I can save some money here at wide receiver, and especially with a reliable pass catcher like Emmanuel Sanders, who only had 1 drop last year, I'm all for it. So $5,700, give me Manny. Who doesn't love a good tight end, right? Swag Rich, you know what I'm talking about. Well, we'll talk about that later, don't worry. Right now, I want to focus on a guy that I'm really excited about and I think is going to go overlooked in a lot of tournaments and even in cash games, and that's Philadelphia Eagles' second tight end, Dallas Goedert. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, why would I want to start a backup tight end? Well, the Philadelphia Eagles love to run more 2 tight end sets than any other team in the league. They actually did so about 55% of the time last year, which was head and shoulders above any other team that ran a 12-man set. And Dallas Goedert was still able to finish as a top 12 half PPR tight end. So for me, if I can save some money, especially at the $4,100 price tag that Goddard is at, and knowing that Philadelphia is going to be without a lot of their pass catchers, some are even banged up, I do think that you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets out of this Philadelphia defense, especially going up against the Redskins. They're not the Redskins. You know what? I'm not going to edit that out because I know that I'm going to make mistakes. So they're going up against the Washington football team, who was one of the worst against tight ends last year. They allowed 15.6 DraftKings points per game, and they also allowed the 3rd worst number of receiving touchdowns to tight ends at 9. So again, at 4,100, give me Dallas Goedert, as I do think he's going to be heavily involved in this offense for this week. All right, everyone. I want to kind of tie things together a little bit and pivot from DFS over to our partnership with Monkey Knife Fight. Now, if you haven't been to Monkey Knife Fight right now, it's not fantasy sports for the most part. It's not DFS. It is prop bets. It's where you can bet on single players, single games, and their statistics and what you think they might do for that particular game. So the way it works is you go over to monkeyknifefight.com, sign up for a new account, make a $10 deposit, make sure you use promo code HEADLINERS with a capital H, and just play in a $2 contest. We will match up to $50 of your deposit for free money. Alrighty. So what we're going to be doing is in the MVP Patreon is we're going to be offering Monkey Knife Fight picks and doing whatever we can to make sure that we are helping you guys win some money. So between DFS and Monkey Knife Fight, we've got you covered over at the Fantasy Headliners. I know a lot of other companies out there charge hundreds of dollars for their DFS and fantasy sports subscriptions. You guys, stop overpaying and start getting paid. Over at the Fantasy Headliners, we are going to make sure that you guys are seeing green screens and you are getting money back into your wallets. Alrighty? Head over to thefantasyheadliners.com, click on Patreon, and make sure you're subscribing to that MVP package for just $20 a month. It's going to be worth it. So again, thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I'm going to be providing this every single week for you guys, a few teasers here and there just to get you started. And we hope to see you over in the Patreon subscription.